If you didn't catch last week's video, I took a look at this, the brand new LEGO Optimus Prime, and if you watched that video, you would know I have a fair few problems with it, especially when displaying it in robot mode, but thankfully there's 5 simple things we can do to make this look a hell of a lot better. So those of you who are displaying robot mode can rest assured that it's going to look nice on your shelf. Let's go bottom to top, and I want to start off with his butt. Now the reason I want to start here is because it will make the model so much more structurally sound for the rest of the stuff we're going to do. If you guys saw my review, you would know that I actually disliked the posability of this Optimus Prime, especially in the hip department, because you couldn't put the legs back or even puff his chest out without this piece falling off and the entire figure splitting in half. And the main culprit of this is simply just 2 little wedge plates. You can see here, if you try to push the leg back in any way, these wedge plates will split from this slope piece and completely split the model in half. I even said in my previous video that just replacing this with a simple plate could have done wonders for this model, because it would have allowed the posability and really reinforced the strength of the model, and that's exactly what I've done. I've taken a plate here and got rid of those wedges and just replaced it, and now I can move the legs and puff his chest out without the worry of him splitting in half. And that brings us round to the front of the model, and before we talk about the chest, I just want to talk about the upper legs. Thankfully, LEGO didn't include many stickers on this set, but the stickers that they did include, they tell you to put on upside down. Now you may have seen this going around the internet, as it's fairly common knowledge at this point, but these 2 stickers on the front of his legs are actually the complete wrong way round. A detail which even slipped by me when I was building it over on my new channel, Tommy C Live. We stream once a week, and this is a channel 100% dedicated to streaming, where we build sets with friends and just have an overall nice time. If you're interested in build streams, do go ahead and check it out. I'll put it in the description as well as at the end of the video in case you guys wanted to check it out. But taking these 2x6 plates off, you can just flip them around, and that makes a great improvement to the figure, making Optimus Prime look a lot more animation accurate. Speaking of making him look more animation accurate, Optimus Prime never really had tires on his hips. I know some of the live action movies and the G1 toy originally did, but at least in the cartoons and the G1 movie, he never really had this. So easy option, just take these wheels off. And here's where we cross a threshold. Some of these mods are intended to only be displayed in robot mode and will limit the functionality of the transformation. If you want to keep the transformation aspect to this model, that's completely fair enough. But considering I think a lot of people are going to be displaying him in robot mode, and the fact that the belt on this model is already parts forming, I don't think that more parts forming is necessarily a bad thing if it makes the model look more proportionally accurate and you can just attach these parts for the transformation. And that does lead me to the belt and chest. I think that removing the tires definitely does help, but that belt piece still needs to come away in my opinion. So separating the belt at these lower hinges and then just attaching the belt buckle to these studs with these 2x2 plates also attached to the back, it thins out the body and makes this section look a lot nicer in my opinion. This just refines that silhouette that I had a problem with in my review. And like I say, it does hinder the transformation, but it doesn't too much. All you do is remove the belt like you'd have to do anyway, and instead of replacing the piece, you just attach these 2 clips back to the main assembly, then putting the wheels back on, and then all of a sudden the transformation is exactly the same as it normally would be. And I don't think that's too much of a problem, considering it makes the robot mode look incredibly nice. But one thing hindering that final look that I really want are these headlights on the top of the cab, and unfortunately these 1x1 pieces just look too big for the scale that Optimus Prime is. These should have just been left off entirely, so I'm going to remove them and try and fix a little bit more of that silhouette. And that leads me onto the arms. I didn't actually have much of a problem with these arms, but there are a few things you can do that I believe does improve them a little bit. Starting off with the hands. Now you can see on the original model that they do give you individual finger articulation, but then they limit that by putting a 1x3 plate on the tips of the fingers. So there's a simple fix for this. Just take that 1x3 plate off, and then all of a sudden you have individual finger articulation. This doesn't hinder the transformation in any way. And now you can pull off that signature pointing pose that Optimus Prime has always had. And the arms do have a relatively good range of motion, and I definitely go more in depth on that in my last video that you should totally check out on this model. But one thing I did notice is that you can move these pieces on his shoulders to give him a little bit more range of motion, as then the posability on the shoulders won't be hindered by that very large piece that has the Autobot insignia on it. The only unfortunate aspect about doing this mod is that once again, it will have to be moved back for the transformation. But if you ask me, it's a very good thing to do if you're just planning on displaying this in robot mode, considering you can get a lot more range of motion out of the arms, and considering that's really all you can pose on this model, considering it doesn't have a waist joint and it doesn't have leg joints, having more posability in the arms is always a good thing. And although there you have it, that is 5 simple mods you can do, I have one more mod I want to shout out before I end this video. One thing I did mention heavily in my last video was talking about the head and the controversy to do with the eyes. These eyes, in my opinion, are actually very nice. I quite like this printed piece, but a lot of people in the community have been saying he looks rather confused or he looks too angry, and something in general is just very off about the head, and I completely agree, but I don't think it's the eye plate. I think it's the bracket piece just underneath the eyes. This half a plate just between the eyes and the faceplate really do create this off look that Optimus Prime shouldn't have. And I think if you removed that half a plate, I think the head would just look way nicer and less confused. And thankfully, 2 people over on Rebrickable, at least at the time I'm filming this video, have already attempted and done this. And considering I was curious to see whether this would hinder the transformation or not, I built both of them. Both of these heads attempting to get rid of that bracket and just go straight from eyes to faceplate. And this one by Sleepy Cow is a great alternative to the original head, making fantastic use of the original printed eyes and the original headpiece that's printed on a 1x2 at the top of the head. This is the one that I was hoping wouldn't hinder the transformation in any way, considering it's the smaller of the 2 heads that I've got here. And although it uses 2 relatively rare brackets in black, unfortunately I've had to use tan ones on mine because I didn't have any black ones, this head is a better alternative to the original head. However, it does hinder the transformation. At least I can't seem to get it to work with this particular head. But this head by Black Falcon 81 is my preferred head out of the 2, and it's the head that you've seen on Optimus Prime throughout most of this video. This head is bigger than the original head and the one made by Sleepy Cow, which means this head unfortunately doesn't really work with transformation either, but in terms of making this head feel like Optimus Prime, I think this does a much better job than the original head ever did. But I must say this head uses a fair few more rarer pieces, especially some brackets in dark blue, which I didn't particularly have and only ever appeared in one set, so I'd recommend changing them to dark bluish grey or black. And Black Falcon 81, if you're watching this video, maybe just try and go in and try and find some cheaper parts for your head, because even though this head hinders the transformation, I'd recommend this one to anyone who wants to make their Optimus Prime, at least in robot mode, look the best. And although these 2 heads are completely optional, I'll leave both of them in the description below so you guys can check them out. And hey, you never know, maybe one day I'll have a go at doing an Optimus Prime head that actually works with the transformation. But for now, I'm happy to just remove the head when transforming it back into a truck. You'll notice throughout this video that I didn't really mention truck mode at all, and that's because I actually really like the truck mode. If you're planning on displaying it in truck mode, then I don't really think you need to do anything that makes the model look any better. This model to me is a weird one, and although a lot of people disagree with my whole 2-in-1 argument, I still do stand by the point that this could have been a great model if we had just got a dedicated robot mode and truck mode. But seeing the amount of people that did challenge that point, it makes me really want to try and rework this model and make it look amazing and proportionally accurate, and still being able to transform. But hey, maybe that's a project for the future. If you want to see more of my opinions on the original model, then you should click the screen now, because I go fully in depth about how I think LEGO got this model completely wrong. And remember to check out Tommy C Live if you guys are interested in build streams. The links are all on screen. I'll see you over there.